the cable is not a good cable, so it's not working off my computer. So we quickly moved to here. Okay, you guys ready? Okay, guys, ready? All right, is it recording? All right, so I want to thank everybody for staying. This is the first ever conference presentation of Cameron and Kayla. And so what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about some of the mathematics I've been doing with my kids, and then just show you where this leads. Okay, so it began, Cameron, do you want to do this slide? Because this is your slide. So when Cameron was 4, he asked me this question. And so he was 4 and Kayla was 2. And the question was how to explain randomness to a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. And so Kayla, do you want to describe the game?
Yeah.
Okay. So quickly describe the game.
Everyone starts out with 5 M&Ms.
So you start off with 5 M&Ms.
Okay, let's do it just to make it.
We're going to do this really fast.
So you start off with 5 M&Ms. If, ta-da.
Okay. Here's yours. Here's yours.
If you get heads, you eat one. If you get tails, you don't eat. You don't eat. So, tails, heads.
People wonder why my kids like math more than I. For the record, you can eat it. You guys can play the game now. For the record, M&M Mars Corporation would not allow us to publicly use their figures in their paper. So there's a bunch of questions you can ask about stuff like this. How long until a tie? What's the probability of a tie? How long until someone dies? You can generalize the games. What if you have a biased point? And so just really quickly, you can see what's the probability of a tie. So, okay, guys, you gotta stop tossing now, okay? So, I've given talks, you can just eat it right now. Okay? So, I've given talks like this to math ed teachers and try and show what kind of good mathematics can you get from a question like this. So, if you have a plot like this to kids in high school, this means nothing. So, when you see a plot like this, what should you do? What do you do with a plot like this, students? David, you've taken too many classes with me. When you see this, what do you do? It doesn't matter. I'm asking a question. What do you do if Professor Miller asks you to do something? You take a log. You take a log, exactly. Look at it like this. You take logarithms. And when you take logarithms, you now get something that looks like this. And you can now try to extrapolate and find what's the best fit curve. Okay, wait. I want to go through this really fast. And so if you try to find the best fit curve, you can actually do a pretty good job predicting the M&M probability of a tie, but not perfect with small data in the beginning. So when you're talking to people, you can talk about how the first few points can contaminate and bias things. If you look at just the last 50, the fit is phenomenally good. I know people want to go to dinner, so to the other stuff extremely fast. Okay, Kayla wants to say what happens if you run out of M&Ms.
If you run out of M&Ms, the person who has more wins.
The person who has more wins and lives longer. So you can write down the infinite formula for the probability of a tie. So if you're teaching probability, this is a very nice calculation. It's partitions. What's the probability you win or you die on a certain amount of time?
Yeah.
Just going really fast. Going really fast, you can also adopt a memoryless process that if they both flip tails, it's as if that turn didn't happen. And so there's really only 3 possibilities, and now all of a sudden you have a finite sum, which is much better than the hypergeometrics when you're dealing with little kids. The last approach I want to just quickly say is you can do this almost like a generalization of the Catalan numbers. And you have a path, you have 3 different possibilities now that you can flow, and you can convert this, you can keep it, no. You can generalize this as a flow problem. And so you want to count how many paths are there out of all the possible paths that end. What about this chart? You remember making this with me? Yes, this was done in the evil Microsoft Paint. It was fast. And so somebody, if they want to do it in ticks, I would greatly appreciate that. And then this is a counter question. It's a generalization of the counter numbers. Catalan numbers. How many ways do you have to get to the 0, 0? And so you can write this down if you're teaching classes as a recurrence with now 2 indices. How do you solve recurrences that are generalizations and more hard than the Fibonacci's normal M&Ms? And then the last one is, just showing, okay, stop. If you want to just talk about probabilities, you can calculate the probabilities of a tie. I'm going to just leave this here. You can calculate the probability of a tie, and if you have numbers like this, you might notice something about the denominators. What do you notice about the denominators? Quickly, because we've got to eat dinner. Yeah, so you get rid of the powers of 3 in the denominators, and you get nice numbers like this. What do you do when you have a nice sequence of integers like this? This does not take the logarithm. What do you do when you have a nice sequence of integers?
Factor.
I'm sorry?
Factors.
You go to the OEIS. So when you're teaching, this is another thing. Whenever you have a sequence of numbers, go to the OEIS. See if anybody's looked at this before. I gave a talk once at Brown on how to prove things with the OEIS. And if you go up, you can look up an enormous amount of stuff like this. So thank you very much. That's it. Any questions? You have to ask if there are any questions, Kayla.
Any questions?
What is your favorite color of M&M?
Or when you were 2, Kayla, what was your favorite color when you were 2? Back when she was 2, it was all blue. Some versions of the game, it matters which color you have.
I was okay that I got one yellow because I was happy that I got the rest of it.
She was, yes.
Will you die sooner if you eat more M&Ms?
Yeah.
Correct answer, yes. Any other, and if anybody wants M&Ms, we have M&Ms for people up front. The giant ones.
Can I?
No, you have more than enough M&Ms.